Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alexey, and today what we're gonna be doing is taking a look at brand new Bogren digital drums library, which is called Eloy drums. New drums library by Bogren Digital is created in collaboration with Eloy Casagrande, who was a drummer of Sepultura and now he's a drummer of Slipknot. So, first of all, let's have a listen to our Eloy drums. So, first of all, in Eloy drums library by Bogren Digital, we have kit view menu. And here we have our main kit of Eloy drums. So here we have our main kick, and we can choose between kick main low and kick main high. Then we have our second kick. Again, we can choose between kick low and kick high. Then we have our snare, and here we have some samples for our snare. So the very first one is bell brass 80, damped. Let's have a listen how it sounds. Then we have bell brass 80. Then we have Premier damped. Then we have Premier. Then we have Super Tonic. And finally we have Black Beauty. Also we have 5 toms. So let's go through our toms. So here we have tom 1. Here we have tom 2. Here we have tom 3. Here we have tom 4. And here we have tom 5. Here we have our gun. And now let's go through our cymbals. Here we have our crash left. Here we have our hi-hat. Here we have our crash left 1. Here we have our splash. Here we have our stack. Here we have our crash right 1. Here we have our China. Here we have our X hi-hat. Here we have our bell. Here we have our ride. And finally here we have our crash ride 2. Now let's open our mixer menu of our Eloy drums. So here we have a mixer for our Eloy drums. So here we have 16 channels. The first one is called kick. We can solo our kick. Now we can listen to our kick only. Here we have our fader for our kick, so we can change the volume for our kick. Also we can pan our kick. And also we can mute our kick. And here our kick is routed to our master channel, but we can route to any channel. If we want to have separate audio channels in our project at any DAW, so you can route your contact drum library to 16 audio channels. And in this case you can create in your DAW 16 audio channels to do separate audio processing for each audio channel of drums. But right now we're gonna be using only master channel. So here we have 3 slots. And here we can choose between no insert, for instance, for all of our 3 slots. And we can choose between EQ, compressor, transient, or saturation. We can EQ our kick. For instance, let's add some low end to our kick. Or we can add some highs to our kick. Here we can use our compressor to control dynamics of our kick. Here we have our attack. Here we have our release. And here we have our ratio. And here we have our mixed knob. And here on our third slot we can choose between transient, or we can choose between saturation. So here we can do some volume balance between our 2 kicks. And right now we have only 1 kick. In our MIDI file we have MIDI data only for our first kick, which is our main kick. And here we can also change the volume of our main kick. And if we had a MIDI data for our second kick in our drum MIDI file, so we could change the volume for our second kick. Also here we have sense effects like reverb short and reverb long. Also here we can pitch our kick. So here we have our second audio channel, which is called kick sub. Let's solo our kick sub, and now let's have a listen to our kick sub only. And let's have a listen to our main kick, and let's have a listen to our kick sub together. Now let's go to our next audio channel, which is called Trigger Kick, and here we can use our own samples. So here we can drag and drop our own kick samples we want to use in this library. Also we can add some reverb to our own kick sample. We can control its volume here. We can pitch our sample and we can check the phase of our sample, or even we can mute our sample. And here we have kick trigger, and here we have some samples created by Bogren Digital. So we can choose from Sumo Sub. Let's solo our kick trigger here. And now let's have a listen to our Sumo Sub sample. Again, we can change the volume of Sumo Sub sample here. We can pitch our Sumo Sub sample. Or we can mute our Sumo Sub sample. And here we have some sends for our Sumo Sub sample. We have reverb short and we have reverb long. And besides our Sumo Sub sample, we have Harder Please sample. And now let's have a listen to our kick section here. Now let's go to our next audio channel, which is Snare Tab. Let's solo our Snare Tab audio channel and let's have a listen to our Snare Tab. So again, by using fader here on our Snare Tab audio channel, we can change its volume. We can pan our Snare Tab. And here we can do some audio processing for our Snare Tab. So again, we can use a transient designer, we can use a compressor, we can use EQ, and again we can use saturation. Now let's go to our snare bottom audio channel, and now let's have a listen to our snare bottom audio channel only. And let's have a listen to our snare top and to our snare bottom audio channels together. Now let's go to our next audio channel, which is called Trigger Snare. And here again we can use our own snare sample, and we can use some snare samples created by Bogren Digital. So let's have a listen to our first snare sample, Super Nice. And Now let's have a listen to our trigger snare with our snare audio channels. Now let's have a listen to our second snare sample, which is called Pick On. And finally, let's have a listen to our third snare sample, which is again created by Bogren Digital and which is called Spanker. Now let's go to our next audio channel, which is called Tam 1. So here again we can do some audio processing and we can play with our sends, with our envelope settings, we can pitch our thumb and we can play with bleed control settings. And also we can link our thumbs. Also you can take a look here and you can see that all of 5 thumbs are already pre-panned. Now let's go to our hi-hat audio channel. Let's solo our hi-hat audio channel, and our hi-hat audio channel is pre-panned. So let's have a listen to our hi-hat audio channel. So here they used some saturation for hi-hat and they used some EQ. Then we have hi-hat X audio channel and they used some saturation. Also they did some pre-panning here. Let's go to our next audio channel, which is called right, and our right audio channel is pre-panned, and here they used some saturation for right sound and they used some EQ. Now let's go to our overheads audio channel. So here we have audio channels for our overheads or for our cymbals. So for instance, we can control the volume for our crash, splash, stack, china, bell and gong. So right now you cannot hear any cymbals because I brought volume faders down. And let's have a listen again to our overheads audio channel. So now we can hear our cymbals and here we can control the volume of our cymbals. Now let's go to our final audio channel, which is called room. Let's have a listen to our room audio channel only. And here they did some EQing of rooms. Now let's have a listen to our Eloy drums again. And now let's go to our next menu here, which is called Groups. Here we have some Eloy Casagrande MIDI pack, which is consist of different folders. For instance, let's try hard rock. So there are a lot of groups you can choose from to create your own drum groups for your metal or rock project. And let's open our mapping of our Eloy drums. So here we have our general mapping for our Eloy drums. It has 2 pages and also it has velocity page, and here you can change the velocities for each of drums. Also here they have learn function, and by hitting learn you can change the note for any drum. For instance, if you want to change the note for your kick main from C0 to any other note, you can hit learn here and then you can hit any desirable note on your MIDI keyboard. And here they have some mapping for different drum libraries like Easy Drummer, Superior Drummer, Addictive Drums, Slate Drums, Logic Pro Drummer, and some other drums. You can also import your own mapping or you can export mapping, and you can create your own custom mapping, of course. Now let's go to our kick view menu here, and also here we have some presets from different metal sound engineers. For instance, let's try Joe Madsen preset. Now let's try Max Morton preset. Now let's try Scott Atkins preset. And let's try Dave Otero's preset. And also, besides this main drum library, we have some additional, or in this case we have second drum library, so we have to hit here. So here we have our second drum library in our Eloy drums library. Now let's have a listen how our second drum library sounds. So here we have only one kick, and we can choose between kick low sample and kick high sample. Here we have some samples for our snare, and the first one is bell brass 79 damped. The second sample is bell brass 79. Next snare sample is supertonic low. Next snare sample is supertonic high. Next snare sample is cannon push. And final snare sample is black raven. So here we have our tom 1, here we have our tom 2, here we have our tom 3, and here we have our tom 4. Now let's go through our cymbals. So here we have our hi-hat, here we have our crash left 1, here we have our splash. Here we have our crash left 2. Here we have our stack. Here we have our crash right 1. Here we have our right. Finally, here we have our China. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to buy new Bogren Digital Eloy drums library for contact, the link will be in the info box of this video. And see you next time.